Hey, welcome everyone. Carm Capriato, your host and moderator for this month's Coalition of Automotive Management Professionals as we prevent advice from the coaches. And a lot of love to call this thing the Coach's Corner. Good to have you here from Remarkable Results Radio podcast. Wow, I got three great coaches on. Let me bring them on for you to join me on the panel. Marianne Croce, smallbusinessvantage.com, and also the owner of Croce Transmissions with her husband in Norwich, Connecticut. Hi, Marianne.
Norwalk, Connecticut. Yep.
Norwalk. No, what
Yeah.
I said Norwich, didn't I?
Wish it for
I
a
know
sandwich.
why. Yeah, I just had a sandwich for lunch. That was it. Malin Newton, ESI, Educational Seminars Institute, author of Joy of Hiring, esiseminars.com. Hey, Malin.
Good morning, all.
And Dave Shadeen, Coach Dave, coach and a mentor from CompuTrek Automotive Solutions, CompuTrek with a K, systems.com. Good to have you here, Coach Dave.
Great to be here. So this is a great excuse to drink a really good cup of coffee. I'm just saying.
Okay. Well, here it is right here, baby. I got it.
No,
Okay.
Well,
Now,
I didn't get that memo. I have tequila.
uh,
oh,
I didn't get that memo either.
No.
Makes for a more interesting podcast.
maybe we'll let you go last.
He's just getting warmed up.
They have sent me some incredible talking points. As you know, this is going to be available on the CAMP Facebook page and all of Carm's social media sites and on LinkedIn and Twitter and all that great stuff. So we're here. You can ask us questions if you're in social media. Let's have fun. You got a chance to spend 45 minutes to an hour with three of our great industries coaches here on the automotiveprofessionals.org from the camp group. Okay, Malin, let's start.
Okay.
I have heard recently some technicians get on with Matt Fonslow in an episode saying we're not charging enough, guys. We got to do some stuff here. And they really went in deep about the knowledge that they have to have, and we're not getting paid for so much of the stuff that we know. What say you?
I 100% agree. And the point that I bring up is we get paid for using our hands, not for having the knowledge to use our hands. And the best example I can give is, what do you pay a doctor for? You don't pay them for their time. You pay them for knowing what to do. For example, if you go in to have your appendix taken out, you're paying him to know how to get there. So if he decides to come in from the left rear to get your appendix, which is in the front right, he's not a very good doctor. So we're paying them for knowledge. I mean, I actually offer this service. Is I've watched a video on YouTube on how to take your appendix out. I have a pocket knife, and I'm willing to do it for free. But the idea that you get what you pay for, and this has been a problem that I've brought up for a long time, is we're not getting paid for our knowledge of the operational systems of the vehicle, and we're not getting paid for the knowledge to use the tools and equipment required to repair today's vehicles. You know, I sat in a technical conference because I love just to hear what the technical trainers are talking about. And the trainers talking about having to build an RF loop to measure the radio frequency of a module because it isn't actually wired to the car. It's talking through radio frequency, and they couldn't find the module on the right frequency to fix the car. And I'm sitting there going, wow, this is not simple work anymore. And our consumers, our customers, because the operating part of the car, I mean, everybody on this podcast has a different car, but they all have the same things inside: a steering wheel, a lever to make it go forwards and backwards, a couple pedals on the floor. But everything else is 1,000 times different than it was 100 years ago. And we as an industry have made this sound simple by advertising price, by marketing price, by quoting price over the phone, so that we're not getting paid for our knowledge. Have you ever called a doctor up and said, how much to take my appendix out? They won't give you a price because they want to see you. They want to make sure it's what's going on. And that's one of our industry's downfalls. And this is a big soapbox I'm on, is to get us paid for what we know, the knowledge we have, as opposed to what we do. Because really, almost anybody can take the nuts and bolts off. But if you don't understand how that system works, and you don't understand the hydraulics involved and the pneumatics involved and the electrical involved, you're not going to fix it. And we need to stop getting paid for what we do and get paid for how much we know. I'll step off my soapbox.
Some of that is as a coach on front lines with advisors, I see so much of the simplicity of, let's make it easy for our customer. Let's broadcast it's easy for the customer. But any strength overextended is now a weakness. And so we made the message of easy make it look like this is a 50, 75, $100,000 high tech piece of machinery on 4 rubber tires that came in my door. And it is, when you have 100 to 200 different codes, each code can have 1 to 10 pages. Each code can have 3 to 5 pieces of high tech testing equipment that's not about time, because that test equipment was 30 grand. Yeah, I only needed it for 5 minutes, but you know what? That's a unique piece of equipment that I only use 5 times a month. It still needs to get paid for. And what I've found is the core of getting paid for what we're worth is shifting deeper than the phrase, if you want something different, you got to do something different. In reality, if you want something different, you got to do something different. To do something different, you got to think different. If you want to think different, you got to believe different. And a core value is your core principle, a worker's worth their wages. Because if it's not your core value, your thinking, belief systems, and doing will never come to fruition. You're going to get paid. You got to believe we are worth what we need to get paid.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with both Dave and Malin. I think a lot of times when the shops are in the position of selling the work, the service advisor has a lot going on. There's so many pieces to that day, that puzzle that they're trying to manage. And a lot of times what happens is they do devalue what's going on just because they have so much on their plate. And then there's the marketing piece that Malin alluded to as well. It's how are we marketing? How are we putting things out there? If we're putting them out there and we're so ready to discount and you know, take certain percentages off and things like that. What we're doing is we're telling the public that this is simple. We're devaluing our services without even realizing it. And it's kind of become a habit in the industry. And that's what we have to stop doing, because we have to value, as both gentlemen were saying, we have to value not only the knowledge but the experience. What we have, all that is so valuable. And to customers' defense, they have no idea. They don't know unless we let them know what's going on.
Yeah, I think it comes back to the tail end of what Marianne just said is a phrase that I learned way back, even before I got a coach, was the best customer you could ever have is an educated customer you've spent time educating. And you got to have time with that customer. You got to set your systems up. New customer, that drop off, that's a 7 to 10 minute visit, if not longer. If it's a regular customer, it might be 3 to 5 minutes, because they're regular. We've already got protocols, we've already got trust, we've got relationship going. But if it's a new customer, I want to give the time for that. I have to educate the customer, because the best customer is someone that has a reality, not the training from the quick lube, the dealerships that don't have it, or even another independent brother or sister shop in our industry that has so devalued for whatever reason that they're actually tainting our industry by not elevating their professionalism. They're not part of a association. They're not getting training. They're not, hopefully if you're the first time on this Facebook chat, that keep listening, man. There's a wealth of information beyond just technical. Elevate our game is we don't elevate our game, we're always going to have that technician shortage. We're always going to have uninformed customers, and we're always going to be in stress. We got to educate our customers.
And another part of that is Marianne mentioned this, is we have to feel we believe that we're
Mm,
worth what we're charging. And our own issue in our industry is a low self-esteem of ourselves. So we don't see the value in this. But what I find is funny, we'll go on uh, one of the vendors and we'll pay $12 for a 10 millimeter socket and think we got a smoking deal. And we go in the shop and we have a drivability diagnosis and we don't feel that we can get 30 minutes worth of time to diagnose it because we don't see the value in it. And this is a mindset. This is a paradigm shift, I think is the buzzwords for it, that we have to start thinking differently about what we do. And we need to stop fixing cars and we
mm,
need to run our businesses and fix customers and teach them about the complexity. I was in a transmission shop and they have a big screen TV in their waiting room and they have a transmission being disassembled by the builder on the screen, and it's a video loop, and people stand there and they watch that and their questions are always amazing. I sat in his waiting room and watched this. It's like, wow, that's a lot of parts. Are all of them like that? Really? Some are more complex. Is that my transmission he's working on? And it made people think totally different about what they were doing because let's
mm.
be honest, 98% of your customers don't know what a transmission is. And they don't see the value of what you're doing because we haven't taken the time to do that.
Guys, I have this wild thought as I've been listening to you for the last, say, 10 minutes here. And, I always speak on the podcast about get out a yellow pad. I mean, it shows my age, right? You got to get the yellow pad out, you got to get the pen out, and you got to start doing things. But then sooner or later, that moves to an Excel spreadsheet so that you can do some what ifs on it, right? But sooner or later, you've got to collect data. That's my point. And think of this to all of your points that we're not getting paid enough. Um, what's the cost of training that we've invested in this year that may not necessarily reflect in, oh, don't worry about it. We found the problem right away. We'll let you off the hook. If you list the cost of training, the case study time invested, the networking that your people put in that just don't have a clock ticking and a price on it. What about the 2 a.m. wake up call that you and your team goes through and they're just so stumped that they're reaching out, calling friends? What about cost of comebacks? The total learning curve, everything. Why don't we write all that down and say, oh my God, I could never charge $500 an hour because look at what it cost me last year to get where we are to be as good as we are. And I think that stark reality divided by the number of labor hours and what you've invested in makes you be sure that you're not offering, don't worry about it, opportunities at the counter. We got this. You can't.
Well, part of that goes back to how we think. So my accountant, who has a difficult job, he's actually my tax guy, right? He's very good at what he does. And he charges $470 an hour to
By
do
the
my
minute.
taxes.
By the minute.
Oh, yes. I mean, if I call him on the phone, he goes, hang on 1 second. And he's writing down when this phone call started. And I'm willing to pay that because I can call him and he does his job very well.
Mhm.
My accountant, I'm sorry, my attorney charges $350 an hour. Why is he worth that? And we're struggling with $100 an hour.
Right.
Because the perception is they're smarter than we are, and they're not, because my accountant can't fix his car and neither can my attorney. And it's funny because when I go sit down and he's charging me that kind of money, you know what he asks me? Car questions. And it's like, hang on 1 second, let me put you on the clock. And he looks at me like, what do you mean? I said, I'm on the clock, we're talking about your car, I'm charging you for this. Oh, but it's our perception of our worth.
Right.
And
You know,
we
Carm, yeah, I mean, Malin, I'm like, what you're saying, I feel so strongly about. So what's happening is in that scenario that you gave, you're looking at your accountant as a trusted advisor, a
Correct.
resource to you, and you see value in that. That's what we have to do with our industry. Shops need to be seen as trusted advisor and valuable resources, a resource to people that they can go to so that they could make informed decisions. Give me the information. I'm perfectly capable of making a decision, but I'm going to go to my trusted advisor, my resource, my shop, and I am going to get all the information that I need, and then I'm going to make an informed decision. That's what we have to change.
Right. Well, and Carm, you brought up an interesting point about gathering data, right? So anybody in our industry that looks at training as an expense is thinking about it incorrectly. It's an
Yeah.
investment, correct?
Yeah.
And it was interesting. I followed some chats about vision, and there's people that closed their whole shop, brought their whole crew, and people going, "I
Mhm.
wish I could do that." Well, if you want to do that, you have to think like a business owner, budget for it next year and change your hourly rate today. And if you change your hourly rate $1, by the time vision rolls around again, guess what you could afford to do if you do things right. And as coaches, we've all dealt with the shop that's been in business for 35 or 40 years, and they don't have a P&L, and they've never had
Yeah.
a P&L. They don't know if they're making money.
Mm.
And you talked about comebacks. Who tracks comebacks properly? They have a WAG, wild ass guess what their comebacks are. So I gave a client a comeback report, the actual cost and the missed opportunity of that. And he did one of them. And when I talked to him, he says, I'm going to stop doing it. Why? He said, because it's depressing. Don't be depressed,
Mm.
fix it. Right. And this is the same thing with charging correctly, is we're afraid to, so we choose not to. It's easier for us to say I can't than to say I'm going to and make it happen. And that's us. That's on us. It's on the industry.
Mm.
And we need to get way off the price driven side of this and get into the value driven. And boy, we could talk for days about this, because
Yeah.
this is
Yeah.
a
Yes,
this is like
absolutely.
my third tallest soapbox I get on.
Yeah, I know. Hey, good stuff, everyone. Really, I don't think we're gonna cover the depth of this topic, and we could do it again. You did mention comeback, so did I. Today, a podcast episode was released on comebacks. It was the town hall from last Friday. Really good stuff. And oh, by the way, Hunt Demarest did one on the Aftermarket Radio Network on how to manage warranty and comeback from a perspective as an accountant looks at it, how you bill, how you transfer QuickBooks and all that stuff, so that the integrity of the margin and the labor dollars and everything, again, and for that customer, stays whole as that comeback travels through the system, and then pull the data on it. So thank you for bringing that up. I think we're trying to do our job here by bringing such great stuff out to the industry from Remarkable Results Radio. Hey, we have so many topics to cover. Let's move on with another one. Dave, uh, big time relationships that don't exist when there's a drop off and a pickup and you never see the customer.
Yeah, the whole contactless environment, which was happening even before COVID, there was more. Let's make it convenient. Let's make it easy. A lot of softwares went to, text them this, text them that, text them the estimate, real simplicity thing. And as we talked about these topics and stuff, and I use the same language that Malin does, contactlessness has made advisors lazy. Digital inspections have really, in one sense, made them lazy. They're letting the digital picture. If a picture speaks 1,000 words, the video speaks, what's that, 1,000,000? But that's what's going to sell for me. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to believe in it because the picture's going to sell it. And the problem of it is that your customers, when they come in the door, do not want to buy parts and labor with dollars attached to it. But we speak parts and labor with dollars attached to it. and I learned this way back in the 90s. Stop selling parts and labor at dollars attached. There's a question out there of, what's the number one thing that we sell? Believe it or not, it's a relevant question. The real question is, what's the thing that Mr. and Mrs. Jones want to buy? They don't want to buy parts and labor. They want to buy peace of mind. And I say peace of mind because peace of mind can only be created in an atmosphere of trust. And unless you're building trust, you're never going to have the wow factor, and you're never really going to be able to explain your value unless you have trust. I have advisors I coach and train, and they have great value, words, and reasons. They take and run with what I give them. But the problem is they never built trust. And so that's like, well, those words don't work. No, your trust didn't work, because no value expression is going to exist where trust does not exist. And so when I see the contactless environment where it's early bird drop off, there's no eye to eye contact, there's no audible left brain, right brain, hearing the tone of voice, body language to see where is that customer. So we text things, we lose that trust. And as soon as we finish the job, oh, they're going to pick it up after hours. People's lives are busy. I get that. And so it's a reality. We still got to address it. But how do we have relationship in a contactless environment that we still create? And some of that's going to be your value expression in your systems. Without going too logistical here, your canned jobs should elevate your value expression in written form. So if you are going to text them, make sure it has a high value expression, not just R&R intake, $1,200. You've got to have more than that. You got to have it educate them. Your canned job should, number one, trigger professionalism, trigger more sales, trigger trust, trigger educational, like you really know what you're talking about, and get rid of this minimalist mindset. And so as I look at contactlessness, and I'm coaching advisors, hey, Mr. Jones, you just Dave from Dave's Auto Repair, just calling to let you know that your vehicle is all completed. Back into safe, reliable, gives you that peace of mind you've been looking for. And so I have a pickup time of 4 or 4:15. Which time works best for you? And most advisors go, What? You set a time at the end of the day?" Well, yeah, because here's what happens. Let's say it's not contactlessness. I have people coming in. Oh yeah, just you pick it up at the end of the day. Okay, end of the day, or drop it off in the morning. Drop it off in the morning. Next thing you know, you got 1, 2 advisors and 8 people dropping off at one time. You just exited trust out of the room in your system, in your thinking, your methodology. At the end of the day, active delivery, the most important time with that customer, really sell the value of what it is that they authorized earlier. Most of them don't get the value until you do active delivery with them at a high professional level. And so as I'm uh, with this, you have a 4:15. That way, I know I get to spend time with them. Well, you know what? I won't be able to be there until 4:30 or 4:45. Well, you know what? I already have 2 other people that are coming in that time, so there might be some stand around time before I can actually facilitate your to review your paperwork with you. Or if you want, I can certainly go over the phone with you right now. So at least I'm audible with them. Or you know what? Just because I want to share the screen, I want to show you some of the things, because I can show you some of the parts we took off. Can we do a quick Zoom call? Almost every advisors, they've got a computer. Put a camera on it, a microphone on it, or get your headset into it, and do a quick Zoom. Be contactless, but let's hold the space for a relationship to even exist with that customer. Our whole active delivery training, I mean, we spend hours on this element one alone. And if you do active delivery correctly, with high value words, can jobs. So when you get done, if you say this sentence on every line, you will do 2 things. One, your customers will be as loyal as you would not believe, because they the best value possible. And 2, your word of mouth will go up. And I've proven this twice in my shop. So, Mr. Jones, I'm going over your repair order here. Okay, do you see at the top? And I can do this remote. At the top there, you see the check engine light diagnose, and you see the paragraph there. These are all the things that we did in testing procedure to get to the exact cost we know that what we're replacing is what needs to be done. And then when we replace the EGR valve, these are all the things we did in replacing the EGR valve at a professional level. And then when we did the decarbon service, these are all the things in the decarbon service because the EGR valve stuck. And then these are all the things we did. And these are all the things we did. And these are all the things we did. Now the oil change, these are all the things we did. The brake service, these are all the things we did. These are all the things we did. These are all the things we did. I hope you guys are catching that. At the end, you know what your customers will say? You guys sure do it. And it's amazing. You were probably doing it before, but it never came out for us.
Carm, you're muted.
Coach Dave, I want to interrupt you for a moment because your internet, where you are frozen, and we have only been able to get every couple of words from you. But I think we get it, all the things we did. And one of the other things I was thinking about is Dave was going through his incredible rant, is that we're excited. We're not selling, but we're excited to tell you about all the great things that we found that are right for your car. And almost every once in a while, somebody could walk away with that, that feeling at Disney, that experience that we're looking to give. So what they do to the car? Well, they did all this thing. It was $800, but this is good, and this is good, and this is good, and this is good. It's probably not a bad idea to also show the things that are really working well.
It's interesting to piggyback on what Dave was saying. Was my son writes service at a dealership. He's been there about a year. He just recently went through our service advisor school. And he was telling me, he goes, Dad, I very rarely talk to people. I text them. And so we had several conversations about that. But after service writer school, he goes, I get really good ratings, but my CSI ratings are always suffering. And I said, the reason your CSI ratings suffer a little bit is because you don't have a relationship with these people. You're just a phone call or you're just a text. And I said, start making it about a relationship. Greet them, talk with them, spend a little time with them, deliver the car, as Dave was saying, and your CSIs will go up. So it's happening everywhere. Dealerships are feeling it. Independent shops are feeling it. We've tried to take the relationship out of this, and this is a relationship business because of that trust factor that Dave was talking about.
Yeah, I think so many of the people on the front counter are kind of overloaded with a lot of work. And I mean, I don't know if I would use the word lazy, but I understand where that's coming from. But I think a lot of them have been sold the idea that all of these new softwares or features are going to make the day go more smoothly, make things more easily, done for you to complete the things that you're trying to manage through and get through the day. But I think it's a trap, as both, Dave was alluding to, and even Malin. I think it's a trap because you need the relationship first. You need to build that. These tools are an asset, can enhance that, but they're not going to be the thing that creates it.
Right. Well, and part of our problem, when I use the word lazy, what I mean is they take the pictures, they send the pictures, they send the estimate, and they wait for the customer to call them.
Mm.
I absolutely hate, and that's a strong word, and I'm going to use that, when I go to a restaurant and they put a kiosk in front of me and say, go ahead and put your order in, pay for it here. No, you don't understand. I push it away and I say, I'm not using that. I came here for service. I want you to take my order, and I don't want to punch it in a machine. I came here for service. If you can't provide me service, I'll go someplace else. And I'm not the only person out there. I get it. I got gray hair. I've been around a long time. I'm grumpy. But people want service. When I go out to dinner, I want to be taken care of. I don't want to serve myself. If I did that, I just cook for myself and save myself the money. And that's what I mean by lazy. We've made the electronics and the technology take away the personal relationship. And this is a generational thing, because a lot of the generation, the younger generation, they don't want to talk. They don't want a phone call. But it's really hard to build value and build trust on a text, or here's a picture of your transmission that they don't understand. So that's what I mean by lazy. The service writers stop doing their job, which is to greet the customer, build a relationship, ask them to purchase, explain what they did, explain the value of it, and then walk them to their car. I believe in delivering the car by walking them to the car, putting them in the car, and saying thank you.
Welcome back, Coach Dave. I hope the internet's going to
Yeah,
be better for
sorry.
you. Are
I
we?
apologize for that.
No problem. But this whole thing about the after hours drop off, I understand how important the personal contact is. But has this crazy last 3 years been so ingrained in us of this whole touchless plexiglass thing that will life come back to the way it was? I guess is my question. Will people want this interaction?
I personally think it already has. Have you flown recently?
Oh yeah.
Right? People are out. And I see less and less of the plexiglass, touchless than
Okay.
one would assume. Those of us who are out and about quite a bit, traveling different cities, I see it a lot. So I think people don't like that. I think there's a fear factor that some people are still have,
Okay.
but the vast majority, I'd say probably 80% of them, want to get back to the way it was. Personal opinion.
Well,
Yeah,
I say that only because I was at the hospital last night visiting, and we all had to wear masks the minute we
Well,
walked in.
but that's a different world.
I get it. No, I get it. But pre-COVID, we never had to wear masks.
Exactly.
So,
but to
so I
to
mean, there may be some factions or some areas that are continuing to have to do that, but I do see people out shopping with masks on still. But that's their preference, right?
but to
That's their
both
preference.
Malin and Dave's point, which I think is a really good point that they made, is that human connection is how you build trust, and all these other things, and like we saw that with COVID. It was a huge made a huge impact on a lot of people that we didn't have that human connection. So I think they both bring up a really good point about that.
So I guess my point is this: let's get up and over it, and let's go back to customer intimacy.
Right. Well, and to Marianne's point, during the pandemic, the rate of depression went up because of the lack of interaction between people.
Yeah. All right, I got it. Hey, thanks. This was great. Thanks for that topic, Dave. Let's try to
Yeah.
round out the rest of the show by discussing managing versus leading. And boy, you talk about one of the hottest topics that any person who is evolving as a leader has to find out. I thought I was a really good manager, but this leadership stuff, whew, this is different and it's hard. And I guess I got to go learn about it. Right, Marianne?
Yeah. And it's funny you bring that up because some people have those natural management type skills and other people do have natural leadership. It's your personal style. But I find that in this space, in the automotive industry, there's a lot of people that are in roles that are a management role. So when I talk to owners or clients, a lot of them tell me that they're looking for more leadership. That's what they really want. And the funny thing is when I break it down for them, they'll say things like, "Well, I think I need a little bit more leadership as well." But there's value in both roles. There's value in both of us. They're related, but I find that the differences become apparent when you're trying to run a business. So management, it really involves the day-to-day activities, the planning, the organizing, the directing, the controlling. You are managing activities. So they're responsible. Managers are responsible for like efficiency, tasks being completed on time, teams meeting their goals, And you can see that in a lot of the roles in our shops. You can see it in a service advisor role, an owner role. When you think of even a project manager, they're managing activities. So a lot of the people in management are really focusing on execution and following the policies, the procedures, the systems, right? The processes that we've put into place. And we could relate to those things. Leadership is a little bit different. Leadership is the ability to inspire and influence others towards that common goal, that vision. So leaders typically set direction and they inspire team members and they help those team members develop skills and capabilities so that they can achieve those goals. So when you think about it, leaders are being proactive. They're very forward thinking and they're innovative. And when they do that, now you have a great combination. So what I find a lot of times is that when you are in a situation of management, so managers lead with their head and they will say things like, follow the plan, here's what we need to do, or, okay, I'm going to take care of that. Like those are the types of things managers would say. Leaders are different. Leaders are leading people. So with that, they're saying things like, well, what do you think needs to be done here? Or what would you do? Or let's try something new. Or how can we solve this problem together? They're building the relationship that both
Mhm.
Dave and Malin were alluding to. That's what they're doing. And the actions with a leader speak louder than words, because when you lead by example, you're modeling the behavior that you expect, the behavior that you respect, and that you want from others. And I would really say that leaders have to develop communication skills. I find that that's really important. And I'm going to put an emphasis on listening skills.
Mhm.
And the reason why listening is so important is in the jobs that we have, the roles that we have in the automotive space, I find a lot of times when someone starts speaking, people tend to already know and assume what they're going to say. So instead of listening, they're already thinking about how they're going to respond. So now, once that person finished speaking, we didn't give the appropriate response. We were responding to what we assumed, what we thought they were going to say.
Mhm.
So what I tell people in like the really simplest form is when you manage, you're using your head to manage. And when you're leading it's emotion. So you're leading people, you're using your heart. And that's really like really sums it up. So I think there are a lot of managers in the roles, but if they were to develop some more leadership skills, it would be huge. Because how many episodes have you had on culture and getting teams to buy in? I can go on a rant about buy in because I'm not crazy about that word. I like alignment. If your core values, as Dave was alluding to before, if your core values align with your team, you don't have to get them to buy into anything. They're already aligned with what you're doing and you're all on the same page.
Hire this lady to help you become a better leader.
Yeah.
Well, I loved your
Mhm.
rant, Marianne. How cool was that?
That's my story and I'm sticking to it. You know, we had to develop those skills. I had to learn a lot of management. I came from management in banking years ago, and I tended to go more with leadership. So I had to learn management skills. So with your style and what is natural to you, you may have to build skills in the other area, because we have project managers, and to me, like a service advisor, well, that's a project manager because getting through
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
day is a project. with all of the little things that change and challenges that pop up, or, you know, just one thing after the next. That's what they are. But also, you need team leaders. And these people may not even have an official title.
Marianne, you bring up such great points, but I want to bring this down to the reality of small business for a moment. I am a 4 or 5 person shop. I have my sights set on growth and great opportunity. I've never hired better people, but as the CEO and all around center point of the entire business, because we're small, I have to be a leader and a manager at the same time. And that could go out of focus in the middle a little bit. What hat do I put on?
I'm going to argue that point with you, Carm,
Okay.
because part of being a good leader is getting other people to do some of those jobs that you think you have to do,
Right.
right? So
100%. Yep.
as a leader, the visionary, let's put that in there, right? You said you want to grow this business, right? Well, you got to tell us what you want to grow it to. And then we have to backfill the people necessary to make that happen. So as a leader, you say, this is the goal. What do I need to get there? I might need a manager. I might need a service advisor. I might need a technician, but it's not your job to do every one of those things. You may not be the person to find those employees.
Mm.
It's about delegating. That's leadership.
Mhm.
It's about putting people in place that can make things happen. And that's where we get stuck because nobody can do it better than me. I own the damn shop. I know what I'm doing. And so I'm not going to hire anybody to do this. And I'm not going to let them make mistakes. I'm not going to let them fail. I hate that word, but let's
Yep.
use it, right? We don't pay tuition for our employees to become managers or leaders, because you become a manager or a leader by making mistakes and correcting it and getting better at it. Sorry, Marianne, I'm sharing your soapbox with you.
No, it's I hear your passion, and I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. Being part of leadership is, it's not about you, it's about developing other
Mm.
people and allowing them to shine. And I'm a big believer in the fact that, well, if anybody heard me on my lives or the things that I do, to me, I am a big advocate of success does not mean that you have,
Right.
whatever number you want to put on your shop, right? Or I'm doing X amount in profits, or I'm doing X amount of sales. That, look, I'm successful. I'm opening up my third or fourth shop or whatever. How is your whole life going? Are you burning yourself out? Like, are you happy? What do we even consider that anymore? So success is the whole package. And I ask owners, I ask clients, what do you really want? Build the business that works for you. And if you're burning yourself out and you don't have any kind of a life, or you're missing out on things, or you haven't taken a vacation in years to, get a break, then and you don't have a team that is empowered and able to make those decisions so that you can confidently leave and take some time off as you need or want to. Too many people, it happens when there's a health problem. But what if you want to? So, I think that's important too, is we have to make success, let people know that success is kind of a package deal.
As I see the transition from, as we coach, we all run across it. We run across probably some pretty good managers, and managers deal with systems, policies, procedures, or if you're in Canada, procedures. They went pro. We're still amateur seating, but they're the processes of things, and you manage systems, but you lead people. The problem is that we spend so much time indoctrinated in an environment of managing, everything's objectified, and now we see a person as an object and not something that we lead, that we enroll, that leadership is about enrolling others to do what you want them to do, but for their best interest. There's a book out there that transformed my life as a manager leader. And it's one that right now, when I coach a shop, it's a mandate. You have to read this book. And in fact, I'm at a shop right now in Spokane. This guy so loved the book. He's bought like 30 of them and handed them out to family and stuff. Leadership and Self-Deception by the Arbiter Institute. It's not your normal leadership book. It's a story form with leadership points, but it comes from a place of, if we're objectifying any human being on this planet, we're in judgment on them and we're trying to manage them. We're trying to be into control of them. But when you step away from them as an object and they have value because they exist in your business, they have value because of, beyond just because they got skill set, they have value because they exist. It's amazing how you can then enroll them into things that they would not normally do. You can actually delegate to people that are people. You cannot delegate to people who are objects in your business, because they will fail you because you're treating them like an object.
And to your point, what does that lead to? That leads to a really great culture. You are the go-to shop that people want to be
Hmm.
a part of. Your core values go beyond you. So your goals include your team. It's not just like, oh, I want to do this for my life and my family. Your team is involved in those goals. So it's very easy for them to say, yeah, let's all hop on board. I'm with it. I'm aligned with it. And you're developing them. And the kind of the back end of all this, the benefit of all this is when people develop those skills, it helps them personally as well.
Hmm.
That's
And
like a bonus.
here's something else to think about. Even the vocabulary a leader uses is different than a manager. So a leader will typically use we, they, not I. They're talking about the team as an entity, n- much to what Dave was talking about. It's not I did this, it's we did this. We were successful. And it sounds silly, but those simple little terminology uh, says a lot about the culture, but also says a lot about how they think about their people.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And we need to realize that we are not doing this on our own. And leadership is one of those things. When I got out of the hospital after being in for out of the business for 6 months, you realize whether you were a leader or a manager when you go to your office and you realize everything got handled and you weren't there, and they didn't ask questions, they didn't come to me because they couldn't, right? They just handled things. And that to me is a sign of leadership. You trusted them enough, you taught them enough that they could do the decision making they had to. And here's a litmus test. If you can't walk out of your business for 6 months and not have your phone ring every 30 minutes, you're not a leader. You're a manager of people, and they're looking at you to
Hmm.
make all the decisions for them. A leader teaches them how to make the right decisions and then trusts them to make the right decisions and coaches them if there is a problem. And that's a full-time job. It's not a part-time job. You can't be a leader for 15 minutes. And Marianne, you brought something up that you lead by example. So if you want your crew to do something, you better be willing to do it. If you have rules in place, then you need to follow those rules.
Right.
And as a leader, your job description is different, but how many leaders have a job description and have shared it with their staff so they know what they're doing? And it encompasses so many things. This could probably be a year-long, once-a-day series, Carm.
Yeah. Another thing for anyone who's developing leadership skills, a great way to kind of rate your day would be because we all are involved with what we would call like difficult conversations. So something comes up during the day, and it could be very simple. On your way home, you're reviewing the day and you're thinking about it, and you say, okay, how did I handle this situation? Did the core values show up in that conversation that I had with that person? Yes or no, they really didn't. And you think about it and you say, oh, what kind of example was I? And what could I do next time to be better at that? So you don't beat yourself up on it because it's a process, but it's a really simple way to just reflect on the day and kind of rate yourself and then say, how would I handle this, or how could I handle it differently?
Wow, what a great discussion, everyone. I so appreciate this. Malin, I did my job by challenging your think earlier.
Mhm.
See, by the way, that's what I do for a living.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
You made me think.
Oh,
You
yeah.
made me think.
Damn. I wasn't
My brain
supposed to do
hurts.
that.
You know what's funny, Carm, is I had a client come to me one time, young man. They took the business over from their father passed away unexpectedly. And so the two brothers and the mom had to kind of assume leadership roles. And so we went in, we spent some time with them trying to get things straightened out, get them on the right track. And we went out to dinner that night. And this guy's sitting across from me and he's shaking his head. And I asked him, "What's wrong?" He goes, "Oh man, you make my brain hurt." And I said, "Good. That's my job. You're thinking,
Yeah,
aren't you?"
it's a
He
muscle.
goes,
Mhm.
"Absolutely."
It's a
Mm.
damn muscle, everyone. And if we don't expand it and work it, okay, so here's the analogy. Have you done enough brain push ups today? Actually, if you listen to this and listen to it over and over again, then you're probably going to have abs on your brain.
Well, and the other part of thinking too, because your subconscious, your emotional intelligence is 25 times more powerful than your mental. Everybody stays in mental because it's easy. It's
Yeah,
the emotional intelligence and stepping
yeah,
into things that will make you a better leader. Courage,
yeah.
Mhm.
boldness, conviction, all of those
Passion.
quality traits, passion, exactly. If you step into those, and actually to step into those, you got to create the space for those to exist, which means how often are shop owners thinking about their state of being? What's my
Mhm.
state right now? I just had an upset customer call. You know what? I got to do 3 other follow-up phone calls. What's my state of being? Instead of just, well, I just got to get her done. I pick up the phone and call, and you're in a low state. Don't do it.
No.
Get your check in with your state of being. But as I looked at managers and in that managers lead with command, leaders lead with commitment. Hey Bob, you know what, we got that intake job, it's got to go by 4:30. Can you commit to getting that done in that time? Great. What do you need? How can we support you? You got to do the work, but
Mhm.
how can we help you with your commitment? Hey, can you commit to being to work on time? What do you need to do? Not just you need to be at work on time. Okay, how about can you commit as an integrous human being on this planet? You'll give me your word that you'll be here on time. And then you never challenge that they're late again. Hey, you know what? I know you to be an integrous person. And you know what the result that happened is leading me to believe that you're not a person of your integrous word, but I know you to be. Can you help me understand what happened there? Not the excuse. Can you help me? What did you choose to get in the way of you keeping your word? It's not about the result. It's about their commitment level.
And if they're open-minded enough, these things that we're talking about really aren't huge
No,
shifts. They aren't.
no,
They're
yeah.
small, but they can make such a difference
Yeah.
personally and professionally.
Wow. Hey, this was great. We should come back and do another entire with this group on leadership. So remind me, I think we're booked all the way to the halfway through the year, but maybe we need to come back in the fall and do this.
Okay,
Well, Carm,
lead us through that. That's okay.
yeah, I was going to say,
Okay.
Carm, you're our leader, so just
We'll
make a
follow your
Okay.
decision.
lead, Carm.
Okay. Is there
Let us know.
anything I can do to make it possible for you?
Winning lottery numbers, those would be cool.
Pick the pick the pick the date
This
today, so I can put it on
oh
my calendar
Yep.
this was
because
great.
I'm busy.
Thank you guys and lady for being here. I sure appreciate it. Of course, Malin Newton from ESI. Their emails are just below their names on the video here. ESIseminars.com. Marianne Croce from smallbusinessvantage.com. Small Biz Vantage. And Dave Shadeen, CompuTrek with a K, systems.com. Thank you for being here. The Coalition of Automotive Management Professionals, automotiveprofessionals.org. And Malin, you have the last word, I guess?
Well, I just wanted to say, come to the camp corner at Apex and meet the coaches
Yeah.
because we're all in the same little area and we harass each other nonstop. So it'd be nice if you came by and so we stop picking on each other.
Yeah. Can
But
you,
we'll be at Apex.
Go to Apex, watch these people get along with each other, and it's a hoot. Anyway, very good. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Appreciate it, guy.